Hello, I'm going to do a video request from Gypsy Hustled today, right now. So, here we are. So he goes, follow-up question to Rugged Individualism. According to scientists, it is likely that someday we will be able to reproduce, prevent cell degradation, and live forever, or use artificial limbs to extend life. We die not because of the number of years we have lived, but because cell degradation increases the odds of a body organ failing. The problems today, I believe, are caused by myopic planning, short-sighted planning. The quest for maximum profits within a short time frame is causing devastation to the environment, and resources are being poorly distributed, leading to exploitations of the needy. I believe that Marx is correct, that capitalism is going to lead towards its own demise and result in revolution. I believe the revolution will be the result of life extension breakthroughs. Suddenly, people's focus will be on preserving the earth. Without the earth, we all die. Desperate life extension everything. Focus on profits will be replaced with new metrics that are centered on society happiness. No one would stay at a job they hate forever because they have infinite time to study and do something more rewarding. Automated machines will also replace the jobs no one wants. I believe the suffering people endure today, poverty, illness, exploitation, war, terrorism, will all fade away as we value humanity more. I think also religion will be of less importance in society, as fear of death fades away into the past. Do you think the human brain is ready for eternal life? And do you think this is the true revolution we have been waiting for to replace barbaric exploitative capitalism? Or do you agree with Richard Dawkins, who says the idea of immortality is a terrifying concept because our life never ends? Thanks. Okay. Cool request. Alright, so basically what they're asking is like, yeah, what's the next step in human evolution? And how are we going to find a balance in our life that, and the way that we all set up our society where everybody is protected, and everybody is looked after and happy, and actually, and you know, where everybody is the same. You know, we're all human beings, and you don't have. We all have the same opportunities and privileges and all that kind of stuff. Because, yeah, it's an interesting, it's an important, probably the most important subject to talk about now, because there are a lot of people who think that the earth is going to die and we're all going to be dead in 100 years, or who think that in the future there's going to be, you know, the rich people and the poor people. We've got lots of movies coming out now, like this year, having to do with that. You know, The Hunger Games, Elysium, that movie with Justin Timberlake a couple years ago, where like the rich people can pay to like stay young forever and everybody else dies and stuff. So you buy time and stuff. You know, instead of money, it's time. And you know, movies like this have gone back for a while, like The Time Machine. Guy invents a time machine, he goes in the future, and then he sees that humans have evolved into two different races: the tall, like, people who rule the world, and then like the short, like, monkey people who just work, you know. And there have been lots of other sci-fi books like that. So, I think even Glenn Beck wrote a book about a future, and obviously in his book, the future is like an Armageddon type future where there's the rich and the poor and all that stuff. So yeah, there's like a lot of people don't know how the future's going to be, and there's not a whole lot of consensus. And I think it's important. We need to come to a consensus and a plan we all need to come together and put our heads together and agree on a plan for the future for everybody. I think having a national health care is the first thing we need to do, what Obama's doing. Forget about whether or not his plan is good or bad. If his plan's bad, it's most likely because I don't know the details, but because people just make it hard on him, and all those Republicans trying to stick their wrench in the gears so that they get to make their own health plan, but they didn't do it when they were in power, so it's like, oh, you must not think that poor people deserve a health care. But that's the first thing. We need to have health care for everybody, because we all have bodies. But anyways, oh, whoops, let me see if I can find this again. So maybe I should go by, according to scientists, someday we will be able to reduce, prevent cell degeneration, and live forever, use artificial limbs, extend life. Yeah, I heard some scientist, I think maybe it was on a TED talk or something like that, but said that if you can live 20 more years, then you're good. Like, you can live as long as you want, because they all figure out how to grow organs inside of machines and stuff, like clones. And so if you have a bad organ that needs to be replaced, it's super simple and cheap and all that to do it, because it's just, they grow them and you can just, it's affordable for anybody. And obviously we're going to need a national health care system if we're going to provide organs for everybody. Because when people die, like my grandmother, she died like in 2001. She was like 93 or something. But she died basically because all of her organs got, the lining in all the organs got thin, and like they seeped, the digestive fluids into the bloodstream and killed her, So your organs just go bad. But if you could have had, and that's basically what dying of old age is. And so, yeah, if you just find out what the weakest link is and you just keep replacing it, then yeah, you can live forever. I listened to a book called Law of War, which is a like a channel book from this woman. What was her name? Carla something. But yeah, the person asked him like, yes, and like, how long can humans live? And the aliens, who are like the Venusians, they live on Venus in a higher dimension, said that humans live up to 900 years, and they don't die because like they can't figure out how to keep the body going, but because they basically get tired. So my understanding of that was that they just feel like it's time to move on. If we all live in a society where we're all we understand how everything is. We can, we know that about all the other aliens out there in space, and we know about reincarnation in history, and our soul never dies, and we can get reborn into, like another planet or another time. Our soul can time travel and whatever. We would choose to die. Just like if you live in this world and you live in a great world, utopian world, and you have some job in some town doing something, you would choose to change careers and live in another part of the earth. It's the same thing, or you choose to get another car every once in a while. People always get cars, even if their old car works fine, they get a new car because they want something fresh, and that's why people die. In the future, in a utopian world, that's why people would die. They would just, they decide it's time to get started, just, live a new life, have the growth experience all over again, have a fresh body, live in another family, maybe another planet. Because part of being a human also is the whole act of creating a new human being and growing a person and being a parent and teaching them and all that kind of stuff. And so you would also wouldn't mind being a child again. And if you have like a planet where there's a finite number of family members within that planet, come up through the reincarnational cycle, you're going to need souls to inhabit those little baby bodies anyways. So why not the reincarnated souls of the people who died? I think people reincarnate in groups, and groups within groups within groups and all that. Like humans, we've reincarnated on Earth for the last 250,000 years, but before that, we were on Mars until Mars was destroyed, and before that, we were on some planet called Marduk, which is now the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. And so we're like this big family, kind of growing together. Like we've created our own little biosphere ecosystem that we all live in and we're all familiar with. You wouldn't you put animals of the same species together so that they can interact with each other. And same thing with souls. We're like a big soul family, growing up through evolution together, and so that's why we would we'd need souls to inhabit the little baby bodies and all that kind of stuff. And also the other thing about being alive is the whole relationship aspect of it, interacting with each other, and experiencing all of the different personality archetypes, having all the different jobs you can have, and so to have all of that, to maximize that experience, and to interact with each and every one of the people in your soul family, like us as Earthlings, you would die and you'd live and be born again and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we would die in the future, even if we can theoretically live forever, because we could keep replacing organs. Some people probably would go crazy and live forever just to be the dude who lived the longest. There's always freaky people trying to break records and stuff. There's another alien who is channeling, Bashar. He's part half human, half gray alien. They're the Sasani, I guess they're going to be like the second alien to land on Earth when the aliens land on Earth in 30 years or something. But they said that when they die, they can still communicate with the people who just died. So, in the future, we could have such an advanced religious, our religion would turn into science. Such an advanced level of understanding that we could, utilize scientific techniques to communicate with spirits in a in-between body state. And so at that point, you literally never die. There's nobody who dies and then, it's like, where'd they go? You know where they went and everything. And that's them, and that's where we're going as a humanity. So the exciting thing is that the doctors say that within 20 years they'll get the genetic to the point where they can grow new organs and all that kind of stuff. So the question is that in line with is our technology in line with our spiritual and religious development? If the technology comes first, then before we're ready for it, then only if we could be in a scenario where only a few get to do that, and then it would be one of those two separate humanities splitting off from each other, the poor, rich people and the poor people. I believe that stuff exists somewhere in the universe. That's if you can imagine it exists, that's how big the universe is. But and it's within our neighborhood of possibility, because we're thinking about it, we're making the movies of it and all that kind of stuff. But we can also imagine a more utopian future where we're all happy and we're all the same, and we all have the same opportunities and wealth and everything. There's some people on this planet who actually wouldn't want something like that, because they like the idea of being the guy on top and walking all over other people. Those people aren't going to be born on this earth. That's a utopian world like that. They'd be born on an earth where on one of those worlds where they'd live a few lives where they're the guy on top, and then they'd be reborn as the poor people, and it just. But in the future, so there is a theory that I heard from channelers that, like where our Earth is, as it ascends to the next level where we can live forever and all that. There are some humans who just aren't ready to live in a utopian world, and they're going to have to be reborn on maybe even an Earth, in a parallel universe on an Earth that has a more Armageddon scenario, and people like Alive Now, like people who are stuck in that mindset and think that the future is just this dark place, then they'll, you are what you eat, and you experience what you think, and because all experiences start in your thoughts, so they would be reincarnated in that, because you get what you want, be aware of what you wish for, because you just might get it, because there's, you can tell, like some people, they just don't care, and there's no convincing them, and so they can die and be reborn there. But I think the majority, and I think I've heard some statistics that only 10% of the people who are alive now are going to get to live in the utopian world that's just around the corner. I think most of the people will be able to, even though, most people seem kind of apathetic to imagining a utopian world. They don't really have that imagination, but I think that's where the majority of us are going. But the thing is that we have 6 billion people on the earth now, and in the world we only had a couple million people. So where are all the new souls coming from? Well, a lot of the new souls could be coming from other planet, like that kind of planet. The people who belong in a more Armageddon type scenario. But in the past, when all of the 6 billion people who are alive now could just be the same human beings who've lived on the earth ever since the beginning, but we're all reincarnating at the same time. Whereas before, when you die, you'd be in the spirit world for a few years, recharging or experiencing other lives on other planets or whatever, or even being an animal or experiencing Earth in another time frame or something like that. So people would take turns living on Earth, and that's why you didn't have 6 billion people on Earth now, but now we do. We have the 6 billion because everybody wants to live here at the same time to experience the ascension, and so we're all Earthlings. All the 6 billion people on Earth now are Earthlings, have the same right to the Earth, have the same experience on the Earth, living on this planet as cavemen and everything coming up through the edges. But we're just living at the same time, and that's what creates the big growth in population. And that's what I believe. I do think that there's some people who aren't ready, who are like animals. Because there's lots of people on the earth now who actually act like animals, like black people in Africa, and they're killing with the genocide and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those people were probably animal souls in human bodies. But for the most part, I think as a rule of thumb, we're all ready to ascend. And so I think, technology and religious ideas go hand in hand. So if we're going to have it in the technology in 20 years, it seems to me that it makes sense that we would be ready for it religiously as well. People are learning. Well, we're becoming more advanced socially very quickly. Just in '68, what was that, like 40 years ago, we had racial segregation in America. 100 years before that, we had cowboys and Indians shooting each other, and bows and arrows and stuff. And so we're rocketing forward, And if you want to go 20 years back, 20 years back was the world was a lot different. We didn't have internet back then, so. We didn't have cell phones that were computers. So if you jack it 20 years in the future, being able to grow organs in vitro and live forever kind of seems like a pretty steady growth, And this growth has been going kind of exponentially anyway, so it's totally believable that by then we could have that. It's pretty exciting. I'll be 60 in 20 years. Well, exactly in 20 years I'll be 59. But so I'll still be fit, I'll be like me, only a little bit more wrinkles. My hair will still be jet black. But so I'm excited, dude, because then I can get on that health plan and live as long as I want. So I'm basically expecting to live as long as I want. And so everything I do, I take my time, because I've got the, like my timeline. Sure, it takes a long time, but I got the time to do it. I mean, hell, if you can live as long as you want, the 40s could be like the new 20s or something. So it's pretty cool. So I think that the religion and the technology will work just fine, and we're ready for it. There's lots of steps we need to make. We need to believe in reincarnation. We need to. But by then, I think what he said was like, he says that churches, he thinks the religions are on their way out. And I agree. I think religions are on their way out. Whenever I listen to like these, there's a radio channel here in Boulder that when I drive around, I flip through the radio, and they've always got these pastors, Christian pastors on. And I always roll my eyes when I hear them on the radio because they're only interested in Christianity. If you talk to them, they're only interested in them. They would only have like negative things to say about other religions. And I think in the future, what's going to happen with that is, there will always be Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and all that kind of stuff specializing in their own religion and teaching their own thing because they grew up like that. Well, at least this generation, if you've got all this Christianity, kids who are growing up now, they're always going to have that attachment to their particular religion. And so they're going to keep their churches going. But the kids who are going to be born in like 20 years into families who believe every religion, the correct stuff of every religion, like God and reincarnation and all that stuff, they won't have that attachment to their particular religion, like the kids who are growing up now will. So church will kind of become more like different. I think they'll keep the lineage of their religion, but they won't be stuck in one religion. Church will turn into more like it'll mold. I think it'll merge with like charitable type organizations. Churches are already merged with charitable organizations, food or soup kitchens and stuff like that. So I think it'll kind of merge into that and just a place for people to gather and try to exchange like an inspiration to be strong and good and that kind of thing. And some would be, tilted more towards Christianity, some towards Buddhism, but essentially it's the same religion. And so religion's basically just going to turn into science. It's like scientifically knowing that we have reincarnation, being able to prove it with people who can remember their past lives, and scientifically being able to believe in God with proving that there's that we live forever and we have like a soul, from reincarnation, and just coming to an understanding that the universe is a place that takes care of us and created us intentionally, and it's not this like dog eat dog, like accidental, like horrible place. That's what belief in God is. So, and then in 100 years, all different religions will basically be like different clothing style. Like people walk around now and you're dressed in a toga. Well, people don't dress in togas now. They will in 30 years, but people walk around dressed in like an Indian style shirt, and they'll burn like Indian incense and stuff. That'll basically be what religion is. It'll just be your traditions. Like the Jews, they'll always keep their traditions just because of nostalgia and keeping a connection to the past. But that's it. It'll be very, very surface. Religion will basically go away, I think. And in 20 years, it'll be like that. All these churches you see now, you're not going to have like the pastor telling everybody what to think and everything. People are going to wake up and communicate with each other and think for themselves, and you have meetings in circles and classes and circles and stuff. So anyways, he continues. We die not because of the number of years we have lived, but because cell degradation increases the odds of body organ failing. The problems today, I believe, are caused by myopic planning. The quest for maximum profits within a short time frame is causing devastation to the environment, and resources are being poorly distributed, leading to exploitation of the needy. I believe that Marx is correct that capitalism is going to lead towards its own demise and result in a revolution. Yeah, what Karl Marx basically was talking about, how pure capitalism is flawed, is that if you have like this kind of dog-eat-dog world where you can, there's no restrictions on how much money you can make, because if you like buy into, say, stock in Monsanto and you're the president of it, then the company gets bigger and bigger and richer because genetically modified food takes over the world because it's better if it's done right. And or like oil royalties, or like or like computer stuff, like YouTube. If YouTube and Google end up, something that everybody uses, then the people and the president of YouTube gets to take all the money, and it creates a situation where, there's like the 1% owns 99% of the money, like we have in America. I think that's what it is, or 90%. But it's horrific what it is, and it's been getting worse. Like the 1%'s 20% richer than everybody else compared to 30 years ago. And like if the minimum wage was the same in relation to worker productivity as it was like in the 60s, 50s, the minimum wage would be $20 an hour now. So it's kind of getting in that direction. The problem with capitalism is that it kind of charges it. So you have like the rich and the poor. Well, the rich make money off of the poor, but if the poor don't make enough money to buy the goods that the rich provide, like all of the, because and they spend their money on just basic living so that they can have enough money to have a quality life in their spare time, they're not going to be buying anything. They're going to be like me, living off of canned food. And so then the rich people aren't going to make their money off the poor people anymore, and then the whole system will come tumbling down, and there won't be any there won't be any spiciness. That's the only word I can think of right now. To the society, there won't be any. Like you go to the supermarket and there'll only be cans. And then or if you do have like the nice fancy stuff, it would only be like in a certain part of town for only the rich people. And it's like if for a society to be, I can't, the words are eluding me. For society to be spicy, where there's a wide range of all sorts of opportunities and stuff, like you go to the supermarket and there's just all sorts of kind of food. You go to the bike store, all sorts of kind of bikes, all sorts of kind of cars, just, all sorts of activities to do, like bungee jumping here and the bike races there and the cliff diving over there, all that kind of stuff. Well, you need the wide range of people to be able to afford that. So you have to have not wealth discrepancy, but in order to not have any wealth discrepancy, the government has to get in there and take over and regulate. We need regulation, and that's why regulation is good. You need to pass laws to tax the wealthy when the wealthy get too rich, and to keep people from, like that saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. People get so rich and they can do whatever they want, then they'll just go crazy and pollute and everything just to make as much money, because it turns into this ego thing about them competing with the other rich guy, and they're gobble up the world. But if we have the regulation, that makes the companies responsible, we can keep the poor people to make enough money to be able to have a sophisticated. There's the word. There's a good word to use. A sophisticated life where they can go to the movie theater and the IMAX and go traveling and get the fancy food and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we need the regulation. But then there's the next step. We need to nationalize. We need to nationalize the oil field so we all profit from it because we all use energy. We need to nationalize Monsanto because we all eat food. We need to nationalize the healthcare system, which is communism, basically. We need communism. But it can't be an oligarchical communism. The reason communism has such a bad rap is because we compare it to like Chinese and Russian communism, which isn't true communism. That's they have more of an oligarchical system than we do. The fewer number of people controlling the country and being richer compared to everybody else, because they don't have any regulation and they're not voted in and all that kind of stuff. And then they kind of it's like they own everything because they own the state. If we have democratically elected, transparent political system, then we don't have to worry about any oligarchy controlling everybody. Because if you don't like your president, you vote him out. And that's the reason that we have so many problems with a small group of people controlling the rest of the country is people just aren't educated. There's so much change going on in the world, and people are just kind of overwhelmed and experiencing new things, playing with their Facebook and all the cool movies and video games and all that. They haven't gotten around yet to study politics and find out what they really find out what's important, to study up on the politicians to vote for. So they just do the easy thing, and they decide who they identify with, and then they just vote for that party. And so we only need two parties, the Reds and the Blues. But as soon as people wake up and have the time to study that, which will be in about 20 years, get there fast, then we'll have the right leaders. I mean, Jesse Ventura tomorrow, I guess we'll get confirmation from Howard Stern whether or not he wants to run for him. If that happens, then we could have Jesse Ventura as the next president, who's not on any political party and, cares about our country and not having all this secrecy and wasting money, making more money for the super rich people involved in the arms industry, attacking other countries and all this kind of stuff, and the war on drugs and all this craziness. We could afford to have health care and all that stuff. So, say in 3 years we could all be fixed. Marijuana's legal now. I mean, imagine how fast, 5 years ago, marijuana, imagine 5 years marijuana. Oh my God, the world's going to be different. Actually, it's not legal yet. Supposedly in a month and a half it will be. I knock on wood, probably won't be because of the Nazis with no respect for human dignity or freedom. But maybe a couple months or a month or two after that, they're losing. There's no way. We passed the law. They could drag their feet and try to block it, but weed's going to be legal, and of course more people smoke weed, and it'll open their minds, increase their IQs, and figure it all out. Because weed makes people make you think for yourself. It makes you second guess stuff, and once people do that, we realize that we've been living in like this false democracy. Then we'll vote for the right people in, and then all we need is good politicians, and then it's all fixed. We're pretty close, I think. So yeah, I believe that Marx is correct in that capitalism is going to lead towards its own demise and result in a revolution. Yeah, it will lead to its own demise when people wake up and they realize that we need to protect the small man, the little guy, the poor guy, and bring him up. Like it's weird. You don't get angry you shouldn't get angry at a poor dude for being poor. It was funny. The Young Turks did this. There's some like right wing politician died the other day, and his wife uninvited all of his political enemies to the funeral as if they were going to go anyway. But he filmed the guy talking. He was a real dick because somebody's like, "Hey, what are you going to do about raising the minimum wage from $10 an hour or whatever, or to $10 an hour?" He's like, "Get a job, get a job, get a job." It's like, well, don't they already have jobs? That's why they want to raise the minimum wage. They already have a job. They're talking about raising the minimum wage. They're fucking crazy. So yeah. Where did that come from? Kind of lost my train of thought. So yeah. The revolution. Yeah, so it's just the revolution is just basically people waking up and coming to an agreement and realizing. People they kind of remember talking points. And, like they hear Bill O'Reilly go off like, hey, what's wrong with being... I even saw him say this. What's wrong with being rich? all these people pissed off just because you're rich. Like, what? You're not evil because you're rich. And it's like, that's not what they're talking about. They're just talking about trying to tax the wealthy so that there's more money to throw into the system for the poor people. You know, money for like their health care and stuff. You don't have to get like filthy rich, you know. And so then if you try to argue that to somebody, like, yeah, we just need health care, they'd be like, what's wrong with being rich? It's like, oh my God, you're just parroting. You know, it's like people are dumb. So once people start smoking weed and think for themselves, then, you know, it's all over for the crazy people. You know, like the way I see it is like evil. There's really no such thing as evil. You know, in the past, evil, the word evil meant things that would get in the way of you achieving God. You know, so like evil would be like drinking too much alcohol is evil. But now evil has this connotation like evil is something that like shouldn't ever existed and is this like thing that's going to send your soul to hell and for all of eternity, and it's just like way too heavy. So I think there's none of that. You know, you're not going to burn in hell for all of eternity. We all get to go to heaven and all that and live forever. But so we're all good. We're just crazy. You know, so an evil person really is just crazy. There's a zillion different kinds of crazy, and you know, so some people like say somebody who grew up rich and never worked would think that that's the way it is and that's the way it should be because they're crazy, because they're afraid that if they didn't, if the world wasn't like that, then all of a sudden they're going to be poor like the other guy, and they can't imagine that because then they would like starve to death because now they don't have any skills, and they just freak, you know, and they can't imagine a world where it's okay to just live in an apartment and not have enough money to fly all over whenever you want. But you have enough money to like go on a vacation like a couple months out of the year, or you know, move around and get a new job in different parts of the world, and you know, if people aren't that kind of crazy and not greedy and freaked out, fear based, then, and we live in a world and we know you automate machines and all that, then we will have enough money to only work. We'll all be rich. Everybody in the world could be as rich as the richest people now. You could work 3 hours a week, and then you could go and travel all over, and the work that you do, you would actually enjoy because humans like to learn things and be experts and stuff. You know, people like study up on, say, like engineering. You know, you gotta study the engineering to make the big bucks as an engineer, and then to work at the engineering. Well, people would do that anyways. People are just naturally curious. You know, you have these little kids, opening up TVs. Oh, look, I did it for fun. You know, so people do that stuff for fun. So people would have those jobs. People would want to work 3 hours a week anyways. And the people who work 60 hours a week, it's because they love their job. You know, like me. I could do vlogs all day long. Or actually I do. I do my vlogs and then I work on my timeline like I work all the time. But I love it, so I do it. You know, I don't get paid for it. But like, you know, people would have jobs like that, like teaching. Oh, I love to teach kids. You know, people love their jobs. And I think they did a poll that most people don't like their jobs. And I think the reason for that is they have to work too much and they're overworked. I mean, I love my job washing windows. I love it. I love it because I get to run around on people's roofs and run around people's houses. And you know, I love the actual act of cleaning it because I love seeing stuff get clean, and I love the movement and carrying ladders around. I love listening to my audiobooks and stuff. But if I had to work like 8 hours a day, every single day, I'd hate it. You know, so that's why people hate their jobs, is because they're overworked. They're not making enough money as these minimum wage people who have to work all the time, and they don't have any time off, and they're just they're burnt out. And you know, my recommendation for those people is just cut your expenses down. Live in your van, eat canned food and stuff. But then you're not feeding into the economy, and then the economy crashes. So that's why, you know, that's the problem with capitalism. You have to, if we're going to have a strong economy, we have to have we can't have wealth discrepancy. You have to have a situation where the super rich only make enough money to buy one house, you know, go on vacation like 2 months a year or whatever, you know, have one car. And then all that extra money that they have right now, because they have got the zillions of houses and the jets and all that, that money would go down to the poor, who could then work enough to like their job, have enough of a minimum wage to have a quality life, and then we can set up a system where we all love our jobs and we work well and we do a good job, and set up a system where we have an automated machines and get to that level of technology where, the minimum, where we can actually have, coffers in the state coffers that pay for everything for everybody, healthcare and your rent and everything, like a communism. The reason communism didn't work is because people didn't care and they didn't like their jobs, and so then they didn't work well, and that's one reason communism didn't work, because they didn't have any control. So, we need to let people have control over their own destinies and everything. That's why we need the regulation and all that kind of stuff, not start straight up like dog-eat-dog capitalism where people can get as rich as they want. But, if you look at history, that it always gets fixed. Back 100 years ago, the robber barons, like one of their spiral staircases would be worth like modern day $20 million, like I think it was one of those guys, if all of his assets at one point were worth 60% of America's wealth. So one guy, one person, forget 1% of the population owning 99%. One person owned 60% of the whole damn country, And if you would add, Rockefeller and these guys, Morgan, I think it was Morgan who had 60%. I saw that in Khan's video about what is it, that era. But Rockefeller had modern day 400 billion. The richest man today is Bill Gates again. He has 100 billion or something like that. So it got better. Teddy Roosevelt went in there and broke up all the Standard Oil into lots of different competing oil companies so that they couldn't have a monopoly and undercut everybody and have an inefficient, spoiled economic system. And then he broke up the railways and all that kind of stuff. And those super rich people, and you do want to keep this in mind, Rockefeller, Morgan, those guys, they were philanthropists. They gave most of their money away anyways. They didn't want to be leeches on society. They started the whole library system in America. That was started by, I think it was Rockefeller. And then, so it's not in human nature to try to step all over people. And I think we'll realize that pretty soon. People kind of think that it is in human nature to be not care, think that you're different and if you're rich, better than somebody else or another race and all that kind of stuff. And there are people who think like that, who are rich and are in that position, but those are the crazy people and they're the minority. And it'll get better. Their children always try to fix the world. Like right now, what is it? The Bilderberger's kids, heirs, because they have so much money, they're trying to fix global warming. So the human nature is good, and we'll figure it out. It's all we have to do is not have a negative attitude and communicate with each other and have respect for people who try, and we'll come forward. And it happens. We're barreling forward in understanding and everything. So that's the revolution. It's just a revolution of everybody, just changing our minds and coming to an agreement on stuff through communication. Okay, suddenly people's focus will be on preserving the earth. Without the earth, we all die. Life extension, technology, all that stuff. Yeah. Suddenly our focus will be on the earth. We're all happier if we live in a happy situation. For example, a poor person here in Boulder, like me, is a happier person, and is actually a richer person, has more access to amazing things to do than a super rich person in Chile, for example. And that Chile is actually a good country as underdeveloped countries go. But that's just the one that I have an experience with because I was there for 5 years. Super rich people in Chile, when they go home, they have to put up the security system and do full lockdown on their house with the huge gates. So they can't, and their kids can't go walking around the streets. And so there goes that luxury, walking around the street and riding your bike around. They can't ride their bike across town because they go through the ghetto and they're all afraid of the ghetto. There goes that luxury. They can't go in the mountains because the mountains are all privately owned by greedy rich people in the private property. And if you do go in one hiking area, I remember one of the best, closest one to the city, some rich dude owned it and he was charging you $10 a day just to be there, just to hike around. So if you wanted to hike, if 3 people wanted to go on a weekend backpacking trip up in the mountains, you had to pay like $18 a day for anybody, even if you're poor. And that's fucking crazy evil. It's a form of crazy. But luckily, we have countries like America where we have places like Boulder where you could be totally poor, and then you could step right outside your door and go hiking up in perfectly maintained trails, mountain bike perfectly maintained trails, climb and go to the Rocky Mountain National Park that's protected, and you live a more quality. And then there's the bike park right here, and the skate park, and the nice library, and you have all this stuff, and it's free, and it's everybody. It's like communism at its best, with the bike paths and everything. And we live a better quality of life, and with more riches than those rich people who have to hang out in their little holes all the time. So once they realize that, you have to have like little enclaves where they serve as examples for everybody else. Once you realize that, then everybody, they go, okay, yeah, you're right. And then they'll agree to have less wealth discrepancy. They'll agree to it because they'll know it's better for them and their children, because they love their children just as much as the poor people love their children. So, so suddenly people's focus will be on preserving the earth. Yeah, also preserving the earth, We all have a more quality life if you know you can go to the Brazilian rainforest and go on a canoe trip and check out the baboons and stuff, and as opposed to it being dead. We're humans. We're smart. We figure stuff out. Look at history, how we invent stuff. That's the other thing we'll figure out collectively and figure out and agree on. If we need That's why education is so important, to teach people what good values are, and the value of communicating and being honest and being real and not being like freaked out. But one weird thing about in today's society is how people are so like have such fragile egos, like can't film yourself, can't even say hello, hi me on YouTube, or even put your real picture up on there or anything. And so in the future people will be able to express themselves like that too. So let's see here. So preserving the earth. Okay. Focus on profits will be replaced with new metrics that are centered on society happiness. No one would stay at a job they hate forever because they have infinite time to study and do something more rewarding. I think in the future with jobs, people will bounce around different careers. It's already happened now. People have last names like I'm John Carpenter, I'm Maggie Smith, I'm Joe Taylor. Like you'd have those last names because that was the job that your family did, and it was your last name. It designated you. You did what your parents did, and over again. It was like one career for the entire lineage of the family. But now people are, and then that changes to, the dad has one career, and then the son has another career. And now it's kind of changing to, I think the average person has 4 careers in their life. So you have different careers, and in the future it'll be even more like that. So, and even educated careers. You could be a doctor for 10 years, and then you could be a lawyer for another 10 years. Because our nature is to use our brain. We only use 10% of our brain anyway. So there's all this other extra brain for us to use. Once we figure out how to unlock that, we use all of our brain. Well, then our brain's going to be like constantly looking for things to think and learn and all that kind of stuff. So we'll all learn all the trades, the complex trades, like surgery, and we'll do it just because we want to and we like learning, and we'll bounce around with different careers and doing the different jobs because we love it. And so it all centers on education. Automated machines will also replace the jobs no one wants. Yeah, so that, literally we'd only have to work as much as we want, And then if you want, you can and all the leech people wouldn't be looked down on because there's enough people who'd like doing the jobs and doing the work. And the leech people would just kind of be like just the less capable. You kind of feel sorry for them, but they're having fun doing their own thing, and so it's all cool. There's no like competition or ego. I believe this, and automation is happening really quickly. I was talking to a guy, actually a YouTube subscriber, who came and visited, hanging out with me. He's living in his van now, Trevor. He was working since he graduated high school. He was working in a Chrysler factory in the transmission wing, and they were like, when he first moved there were like, I think 10,000 people in the building he was working in. And then when he left 10 years later, there's only 2,000. And I was like, well, why did you leave? Was it because nobody was buying the cars, or because they automated the jobs? And he said about half and half. So about So they lost like 5,000 people in that factory because they automated it. And, he was describing one job he had where he had to pick up this 35-pound thing and throw it in this other thing over and over again. And he doesn't even have that job anymore because now it's automated. So it's happening quickly. Now you have the tree shakers that you hook up to the tree and it shakes the fruit out. And of course, people are like protesting about that because now they lost their jobs. But once people realize that that's actually, because then it just makes the rich guy richer. But if you can regulate it, then at the end of the day, it just makes the food cheaper. So everybody has to work less. And so, yeah, automation is the answer. And once we figure out how to automate everything, because we're really creative people, good engineers, then stuff gets so cheap that, and a lot of people like to say that, our quality of life is down from before. Well, yeah, we make less money comparative to our productivity, and the rich people are richer, but our quality is better because we have all this technology, and it gets more and more, affordable. So it's getting better. It's not getting worse. I believe that suffering people endure poverty, illness, exploitation, war, terrorism, all fade away as we value humanity more. Yes. I think also religion will be less important since society, fear of death fades away into the past. Yeah, when you believe in reincarnation. Do you think the human brain is ready for eternal life? Do you think that that the true revolution we have been waiting for will replace barbaric exploitative capitalism? Yeah, we're ready for it. Do you agree with Richard Dawkins, who says the idea of immortality is a terrifying concept because of life never ends? Thanks. Yeah, it's because fucking stupid-ass fundamentalist Christians try to convince you that if you're not Christian, you burn in hell. Once we get away with the burning hell idea, and the atheist thinking that you disappear when you die, and we believe in reincarnation of eternal life for your soul, then it's all good. We're out of the woods, and nothing to be afraid of. Okay, I got to take my enchilada. I got some enchilada out of the oven. I'm experimenting with different cool enchiladas stuff to buy at the supermarket. So, peace out. Thanks for the request, Gypsy Hustled. You have the best requests. Doggy style.